but my RE is here to make a baby with science. And there's no room for feelings when you're getting science done. Hi guys, and welcome back to IRL JAKS, where I share with you my real life as it happens. And today we are talking about infertility, and specifically my infertility journey. I wanted to give you guys a quick update of my first year of infertility, since I wasn't documenting it on camera at the time. So I'm just gonna give a quick rundown of all the different things that happened to us, kind of the sequence of events that led up to where we are now. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave them below or message me personally if you're uncomfortable commenting below. But make sure to like and subscribe if you found this video entertaining or helpful and you want to keep following along with my journey. This whole journey started back actually the day before my wedding day. It was the last day that I got my Depo-Provera shot, and I knew that was going to be my last one because it takes about 6 months to a whole year for Depo to wear off. And so I didn't want to have to worry about birth control during the honeymoon, but I also wanted to start getting my body back to normal. My body's questionable, so saying and getting back to normal is kind of silly. But get back to normal so that we could try to start to have kids in the future. So, day before my wedding, May 6, 2017, got my last Depo shot. Then, about 6 months later in January, I got my first natural cycle in forever. It was an incredibly long cycle. Sorry for the TMI, but we're talking about infertility, so periods, blood, and injections are kind of part of the deal. In January, I had a natural cycle that lasted 25 days. So needless to say, I was not chill with this. This is not okay. This is not normal. I went and got an appointment with my OBGYN where she agreed. She's like, this is not normal, and asked me a bunch of questions that I thought were insane at the time. I was like, why are you asking me these questions? And why do you know everything about my life? Because it was insane. It was like she was describing exactly me to a T. She was like, have you ever had normal cycles? I was like, no. Have they always been long and irregular? Yeah. Have you noticed any abnormal hair growth, any darker hair? And I'm like, how did you know about my mustache? I got rid of it. And little did I know, these are all signs of polycystic ovarian syndrome that she diagnosed me with. I will have a much more in-depth video on PCOS, what it means, what you should do about it in a 5-part series that's coming out after this video. So keep an eye out for that and subscribe if you're interested. After a bunch of blood work came back in February, she started me on metformin, which is a pretty standard medication to go on for PCOS. Now that I know better, I would have said no to that because my blood sugar is fine, but I didn't know any better at the time, and I let her put me on it because a lot of women with PCOS have success in getting pregnant just for going on metformin. It is a atrocious drug, makes you feel awful, and didn't work for me, but I stayed on it for 3 months. After that didn't work, in June of 2017, we started our first progesterone cycle, which the whole point of that was just to try to get me to cycle naturally, that maybe if we kicked off the cycle, then everything would fall into place afterwards. Didn't work, didn't work. After there was no indication that I ovulated for that cycle, we went on to do a medicated cycle with progesterone and Femara. Femara is similar to Clomid, if you've heard of that, but in women with PCOS, it tends to have better results, and it's also safer. You don't get as many hyperstimulated ovaries or multiple pregnancies with Femara as you do with Clomid. Went on the lowest dosage of 2.5 milligrams, and nothing. So at this point, my gynecologist called it quits, said I needed to go talk to a reproductive endocrinologist or an RE, and I took her advice wholeheartedly. And in the meantime, while I was waiting for that appointment, I did have one natural cycle where I did cycle all the way through naturally, including ovulation, but obviously did not get pregnant from that. In October, I had my first appointment with my RE, who I love. She is not like the touchy-feely, let's have a hug, we're gonna make a baby and it's gonna be great type of RE. If that's who you have and that's who you need, great. But my RE is here to make a baby with science, and there's no room for feelings when you're getting science done. So she is on top of her research, on top of her game, but very much isn't there to like hold your hand, and if she's gonna deliver bad news to you, she just delivers it and then waltzes away after you're done asking questions. Very much my style. I like it. We're here to use science to make a baby. Let's make it happen. Anyway, I had my first appointment with her. She ordered a litany of tests for me and my husband. I've been tested for like every genetic disorder ever, and I've had multiple ultrasounds and blood work and all that jazz. Husband's had a semen analysis, had a major scare with that, but it turned out to be a lab error. A lab error? Really? I about had a heart attack because, of course, I waltzed in to my RE's office expecting to get like the next steps of like a medicated injectable cycle, and she's like, IVF's your only choice because semen, what can you do? And I was just like, what? And had a minor panic attack. It's okay, turned out fine, totally a lab fluke. And we have had repeat semen analysis that have been totally fine, and went to saw a urologist who also is a great doctor, really great health system all around. He was funny as all get out, and told me to calm the F down. Essentially, he called me out on my like little binder full of information, and he's like, are you a medical professional? I was like, no, I'm an engineer. And he's like, yeah, okay, calm down. Great doctor, again, love it. Anyway, got that cleared. So once my husband got cleared, we went back to the RE, and she said we are good to go with a monitored medical cycle. Essentially what that was we were gonna have progesterone and Femara again, and then look at my ovaries to see if anything was happening. At the beginning of December of 2017, we started that. I took a different type of progesterone that worked out much better for me, as well as the maximum dose of Femara, which is 7.5 milligrams, and started my monitored medical cycle. On cycle day 10, you go in for your ultrasound to see if the Femara is working, and I went in, and nothing. I didn't have a single follicle over 9 millimeters, and a mature follicle would be around like 18 millimeters, so just no one was even growing in there. No one was growing, or even close to it. So again, my clinic stepped up to the plate because that ultrasound was the day before Christmas Eve, and they're like, well, for this cycle to continue, you need Gonal-F injections, but how are you ever gonna get medication in time to do that? They totally stepped up, pulled a bunch of strings, got me my medication before all the pharmacies closed that day. Super thankful to them that I didn't have to wait and just trash that cycle. Would have been super devastating because I react very poorly to the Femara. And so I would not have handled it well. Anyway, started on Gonal-F injections, 25 units a night, and did that for a little under a week, and got a mature follicle, which is really cool, and did our trigger injection, and actually got pregnant off of that cycle. Our ovulation date was like January 1st, and so I found out January 11th. You can go watch me find out I'm pregnant on another video that I'll link up above, and it was crazy awesome to have something that worked. It was nearly a year into this journey that we found out that something had worked, and after a year of just so many medications and scares that we're gonna have to go straight to IVF and just freaking out, it was so nice to just have something work. Anyway, so I went and got my HCG drawn right away, and my first draw, sorry, I'm gonna look at my cheat sheet. My first draw, it was 13, and my progesterone was also 13. So a really low, like between 10 and 15 is where they're like, not pregnant. I'm like, what? Why does that scale even exist? Ugh. Anyway, so went in 2 days later to get another draw. That was at 39 with a progesterone of 21, so great. It tripled, really liked that. I went in for one more draw just because they want you over 100 before they clear you, and that was 139 with a progesterone of 19. Again, great numbers, was really encouraged. Then we went in for our ultrasound, our first ultrasound at 6 weeks, 4 days, and got to see our little baby S. He or she was measuring at 6 weeks, 1 day, and had a fetal pull of 82 beats per minute. That's right on the cusp of where it just could have started or not, or it could be a danger sign. We didn't know. We had to wait a whole nother week to get another ultrasound, which didn't go well, unfortunately. The heart rate had diminished, and while the baby had grown, it hadn't grown nearly enough, and the heart rate had gone down to 49 beats per minute. And then a week later, we went in for our final check just to confirm, and the heart rate had stopped. So around 8 weeks is when the heart rate stopped, and a week and a half later I had a D&C. You can go watch a video about that. Again, I'll see if I can link that up above for you, for all my tips and tricks on getting through a miscarriage and getting through a D&C, because it can just be a really overwhelming time, especially after going through an infertility journey. It was, I don't want to say more devastating, but just more panic-inducing, I guess, to be very honest. I was having panic attacks about thinking about going through another cycle of medication. It was so scary, just so scary. I didn't want to have to do that again. It had really affected my career, and obviously whenever you're that hormonal, pumped full of drugs, it affects your relationship, and my husband's the best, but even I was sick of dealing with me. So that is kind of where we are now. I am about 6 or 7 weeks past my D&C. I've gotten the clear from my RE to go ahead with another cycle. We'll follow the same protocol as last time, and I'll start here in a few weeks. Got to time everything with business travel and everything. Can't be away from the husband when you need the husband, right? And you also need, when you do the injections, you have to be monitored every other day at your RE, so that has to happen too. This was just a quick video to get everything on camera that's happened so far, as much for my documentation as your interest, I hope. And going forward, I'll have much more regular updates and a lot of information about the different medications that I've been on and PCOS. So hopefully you guys can learn a little bit about PCOS. I'm planning to have a 5-part series on that, going through everything from how you get diagnosed, what the treatment is, what diet you should be on, and then of course getting pregnant with PCOS, which is basically an area I'm an expert at this point. Anyway, if you guys enjoyed this video or found it helpful or are hoping for me to make more videos, please like or comment below. It really helps me out and keeps me motivated. Until next time, friends, keep on fighting!